on Twitter, these idiots on cable news, these idiots on Sunday shows going, well, yeah, presidents, you know, he was talking only about the auto industry, and this is one more. It's just, let me say that at 6:15 a.m. It's just, he knew what he was doing. We're not stupid. Americans aren't stupid. He was talking about a bloodbath. Sometimes a bloodbath means a bloodbath. And when he finishes by saying, and that's just going to be the least of it, seriously, these people may be stupid. We're not.
Just keep telling yourself that, Joe. And I'm not talking about my friend Joe Concha. That was Joe Scarborough. And boy, he just sounds like a pleasant person to be around. Let's talk to our friend Joe Concha about it. Fox News contributor and author of the book, Come On, Man, The Truth About Joe Biden's Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Presidency. And you got another book coming out too, Joe. Isn't that right?
I do. It's called Progressively Worse.
Oh.
Why today's Democrats are not your daddy's donkeys.
Mm-hmm. When
Yes.
you hear Joe Scarborough, I mean, it's kind of enraging, but at the end, I'm like, I'm not a hugger, but I'm like, do you need a hug? He seems uptight.
Can I tell you, I went on Joe's show, and this is when I was just getting into going on cable news, and I would go on MSNBC, and I went on a show called Scarborough Country. It was on at 10 o'clock weekdays. You know, it was in Secaucus, New Jersey. That's where they used to have their studios. I lived in Hoboken, so in Jersey parlance, it's like a 10-minute drive. You know, they send a car. So I'm like, yeah, I'll go with the Scarborough guy. He's former Florida congressman. And whenever I get off, I'm like, wow, pragmatic guy, down to earth, you know, easy to get along with. I never thought twice that I never thought anyway that Joe Scarborough would morph into Keith Olbermann. You can't tell the difference now at this point. Let's tackle that soundbite that you just played. He's talking about everybody's idiots. This was a bloodbath. You can't call it anything else. Then why did Joe Scarborough the night before make the same argument on Twitter, calling what Trump said a bloodbath, and then he deleted the tweet only after Elon Musk called him out, and then the blowback was so overwhelming, it was a tsunami of criticism to Scarborough, rightly so, because, again, if you just play the whole clip in context, obviously Trump is talking about the auto industry, and he's talking about cars coming from China through Mexico and the need for tariffs, and I won't get into the whole details of that, but he was making a policy point, and he used the word bloodbath just like every major news organization uses in political parlance since the beginning of time. And as for Joe Scarborough, he tweeted himself on several occasions about bloodbaths in terms of certain elections and certain races, and it never had to apologize for it. So this is having a boomerang effect, and I think it's very telling, Annie, that the fact that all these news organizations and people like Scarborough and folks on CNN are pushing this narrative, but then there's this counterweight that seems to be as strong or even stronger, and that's on social media and X, and then guys like Joe Rogan were talking about it on his podcast yesterday, saying this is complete BS. Everybody knows that this is a lie. It's willingly dishonest. And in the end, this will only help Trump. They just don't know it yet.
I completely agree with that. There is a level. You said Keith Olbermann. He is, I think, the most unhinged. I've never heard him say anything that is, I don't know, what would you say, hinged? He never comes out and is like really measured. He's always so ragey that you got to kind of look away. You have secondhand embarrassment just from reading tweets that he writes. Why is it that they've gone from, I disagree with what he's saying, you know, and suggesting that Donald Trump is not right for fixing America, to this level of psychopathic rage that it's almost like a misery loves company thing, I guess, for the few people who watch these shows anymore. But why are they so angry?
Oh, you mean Keith Olbermann when he publicly hoped that Donald Trump would be assassinated?
Yeah.
That tweet we're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, look, in the same year that I appeared on Scarborough's show on a regular basis, I also appeared on Keith Olbermann's show. Can you believe it? Joe Concha and Keith Olbermann, right?
And look at you now.
Look at me now, right? I'm still on TV and Keith is not. But here's the thing. I used to adore it. Like, I used to revere Keith Olbermann. Now I'm talking about ESPN Keith Olbermann, and when he used to do SportsCenter with Dan Patrick back in the 90s, it was called The Big Show. I mean, it was SportsCenter, but this was like must-view television. And you watched Keith Olbermann, and you thought that he was a man who was a command of the facts, completely, as it pertains to baseball especially, and just was very entertaining in terms of the way he did highlights. So then when Keith invited me on his MSNBC show, again, I never thought twice, like, oh boy, that guy's nuts. You're like, oh cool, Keith Olbermann, the guy who was in sports who's now on MSNBC. Remember, MSNBC MSNBC was a very different MSNBC back in 2003, 2004, because you had Tucker Carlson, who had a show on that network. For example, let's see, Savage had a show on that network. Jesse Ventura had a show on MSNBC. I mean, trust me, they tried to be balanced between conservative and liberal, and then eventually Oprah started to go nuts. They hired Rachel Maddow, and then they never looked back. Yeah, look, the hatred and everything, it's just now, at this point, you can't get angry about it. You just have to mock it. And if you mock it, you feel a little better about yourself, and you make them look as crazy as possible, because you don't even have to make them look crazy. It is crazy. Yeah. And this election, if Trump is listening, and I know he listens to your show, Annie, or at least gets the clips afterwards if he's busy, all you have to say is, look, this is a matter of common sense versus crazy. And if you like common sense, then you vote for me. If you like, lower taxes, you vote for me. It's not spending what we don't have in terms of inflation, you vote for me. You want lower crime, more police, and AGs that actually enforce laws in the books, you vote for me. You want the border secure, you vote for me. You want foreign policy that we don't fight in all these wars and all these billions going out the door, we don't know where it's going, no accountability, no end in sight, vote for me. If he just sticks to that, I think he wins anyway, regardless of how he acts at this point, because Biden is that bad, the country is that bad, and Trump's on the right side of all the issues. But if he just sticks to that message over and over, he wins in a landslide we haven't seen since Ronald Reagan, 84.
Oh, from your lips to God's ears, Joe Concha. Right now with us, Fox News contributor on Twitter at Joe Concha TV. You mentioned Elon Musk. He also threw out names like Joe Rogan, Tucker Carlson. I can think of so many alternate media. And, I guess talk radio is pretty established in the opportunity for people to consume information through a particular medium. Of course, cable TV is as well. But I actually think that all of these alternative podcasting and people doing their own thing is actually kind of strengthening anybody who is speaking around the truth. So I don't know that if you're in cable news that cable news is ever going to be as big as it was when it was the only game in town. But if you're in cable news and you're talking truth, and other people in other places are also talking truth, the way people are writing now independently, what do you think the influence of an Elon Musk and a Joe Rogan and the like is on specifically this year and this election when it comes to what is real?
Well, it's like that Scarborough tweet, right? Like, in other words, Joe Scarborough will do Morning Joe, and some publications will write like 3 or 4 stories, Mediaite, about whatever Scarborough says every day, right? As far as like, wow, he slams Trump, as if like that's a story, right? Oh, wow, Joe Scarborough went after Trump. Look at that. Like, I don't get the thought process around that. But maybe I think 800,000 people watch Morning Joe. And something like 1.6 million watch Fox and Friends, so twice as much. But then when you get into like the Elon Musk world, and I don't know how these numbers exactly are calculated, but Musk replying to Scarborough, calling him out on his BS as far as the bloodbath thing, it's got something like 64 million views, right? Now, those views, I don't know, is it just, I scroll by it, do I count as a view? Even if I take away 1/10 of that, it's still 6 times as much that of the people that are watching Scarborough, right? And people like Rogan and Musk to a certain extent are more respected and more trusted because they don't really have an agenda in terms of where are they going to get their next contract. In other words, remember 2015, 2016, Joe Scarborough, Mika Brzezinski kissed Trump's ass more than, and I'm sorry if I just stepped on something there.
Okay.
Bleep, dump me out. But yeah, they kissed his butt more than anybody. I mean, Trump was on there every week, and they were the friendliest interviews. And then only after Trump got the nomination, they said, oh, this guy could win, did they turn on him because they realized their audience was turning on them. And ever since then, they've tripled down in terms of being the leading parts of the resistance against Trump. So people that you hear things on TV, like cable news, a lot of people are saying it because they want that next contract. The people that survive are the ones that are completely honest, and they will throw you a curveball once in a while. I know when I came on with you, for example, during the primaries, I criticized Trump plenty, and I thought that DeSantis was the better candidate. Mm-hmm. And when I would get off, it would be really fun on social media hearing from Trump supporters saying that I'm some sort of rhino traitor, blah, blah, blah. But I'm like, you know what? I don't care because I'm going to give my opinion, and I'm not going to apologize for it. So those people are the ones that will survive, and people like MSNBC where can you tell one person from the other on that network? Because I can't – outside of Steve Kornacki, which I think just is like a numbers dork, right? And I know Steve, and he does a good job. Outside of him, everybody else sounds the same, so that's why their ratings are in the dumps. And then that's why CNN, who tries to be MSNBC, that's why they're like half of MSNBC. So just be authentic, give an opinion, don't be scared of your audience, and you'll be fine. That's why Bill Maher does well, by the way, because he doesn't care about what his audience thinks either.
Yeah, and they respect him that his opinions seem to be his opinions one way or the other, whether they agree with him. Do you have anything you want to add? I kind of want to hear what you have to think about Don Lemon.
Yeah. Oh, Well, Elon Musk described it best. He said Don Lemon wanted to take CNN and put it on social media, and that's just not going to work. How do you go into partnership with somebody like Elon Musk, and then you interview him, and you just try to gotcha him the entire time? You know, basically say that he promotes hate speech, basically say that he's a donor to Trump, or at least ask, are you donating to Trump? Ask him about his past drug use. I mean, it was the most obnoxious interview from a most obnoxious person that ever existed in cable news. And the things he asked for in his contract, did you hear about this?
Yeah.
He wanted $5 million up front. He wanted a say in the content on Twitter. Are you kidding me? He wanted a Tesla Cybertruck or something like that. This was the lowest rated guy in cable news in prime time, and he's making all these demands. So Elon's like, get out of here. I don't need you. I don't need this. And it was good to see.
It was like a test case in narcissism run amok. It's pretty unbelievable.
Perfectly said.
All right, last question before we let you go. I don't know how long you want to spend answering this. Our YouTube poll for today is: are you paying attention to Kate Middleton?
I am, only because I had to talk about it this morning on Fox and Friends first. Look, clearly there's something going on, all these Photoshops, and then for somebody to put out a statement apparently from Kate Middleton saying, oh, you know, I was just experimenting with Photoshop. Yeah, that's what's going on. She's like your average housewife. This is a good picture of my kids at the soccer game. Oh, but I don't like that filter. Let me make people look a little bit better. No, of course not. No photos are going out of Buckingham Palace without, a whole comms team looking at it. So the fact that we have not one but two doctored photos of her, she apparently was shopping a day or two ago, but it doesn't really look like her.
I don't think it looks like her.
No, it's like a younger version of. I can't put my finger on it. It's definitely not her. So what's going on? Is she really having a health issue to the point where she can't speak? Right? Not even like a statement put out on audio, and you can't put her in front of a camera. So this is bizarre stuff. It's not the biggest story of the year, I will say, but it's definitely the oddest. That's for sure, Andy.
I would agree completely. Joe Concha, thanks for being with you. Is your book available for pre-order yet, or is it?
Not yet. No, I'm not even supposed to talk about it according to the book people. So
never mind.
It comes out in June, and we'll talk about it a lot in June. But until then, mum's the word.
All right, we'll have you back in June, but probably before then. And get the other one, the Come On Man. That one they can get right now. Come on. Thank you, Joe. Good to talk to you. Bye-bye. He is a Fox News contributor and an author. I'd highly recommend reading his books. Very, very entertaining. We'll put it that way.